Throughout my first year of business, I spent so much time focused on my Canva creations to be absolutely perfect. I kept reels in my drafts and wouldn't post them because they just didn't feel good enough. And I was so focused on making everything look so pretty that I was actually holding myself back. So, if you guys don't know, my name is Arden Schiller, and I'm an online business coach. I'm here to help you grow without the hustle and grind, embrace the space in the in between, and find joy and fulfillment in your business. Today, we're diving in, and I'm going to be talking to Nicole Baker. She is a coach for perfectionists, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit more about how to overcome perfectionism and really stop holding yourself back, but rather move forward in your business to create a bigger impact and more income. So, super happy to have you here, Nicole. Tell me
Thank
a
you
little
for
bit
having me.
about yourself and what you do.
I adore you. Your energy is amazing. It's just like even when you're doing an intro, you're like, I'm hype. I love it. My name is Nicole Baker. I am the CEO of Life Coach Baker. I really started the personal development journey way back when I was like pre-born, like in the womb. Both of my parents worked for some of the top industry people in the personal development world. And I grew up attending these seminars and going to the fire walks and, watching people scream like, I am enough in a big conference hall in a hotel room. But I loved the industry. It was so wonderful. But around middle school, even a little bit before that, I started getting just, I can't say it any other way, severely bullied, stuffed into bathrooms, called names that I will never speak to another soul in the entire world. And something shifted in me that day. And it was just this idea of, okay, you can't be yourself. Yourself is not good enough. You have to be perfect, or else you'll keep getting hurt physically, emotionally, etc.
Yeah.
And this really stuck with me all the way. This perfectionism, just like hyper perfectionism, stuck with me for the longest time until I was finally at this incredible program. It was one of the top in the nation for musical theater. And I was sat down by my professor. Like I worked my tuchus off to get into this school. This was like my dream program. And my professor sat me down my junior year and said, your confidence is shattering your ability to graduate. So perform a miracle or leave. Basically, he said it much kinder. He's an amazing man.
Wow.
It was literally this moment where I was like, my perfectionism is literally costing me everything that I have. And so I called my dad, who's the life coach, and I was like, coach me. Like I need something. I need to implement these lessons I've learned since birth. Like I have never implemented them. They've just always been swirling around in my head. And my dad was like, okay. So he coached me. No holds barred. Homeboy went crazy. Like I loved it. It was wonderful. I'm very grateful, very grateful. And my life completely turned around. I graduated cum laude. I was able to build a business after performing professionally in Chicago for a few years. And now it's like I now coach perfectionists. It's so full circle and I love it. And even I'm now asked back to that university to give workshops on perfectionism. Like it's
Oh,
just so
that's
cool
so
how everything
cool.
happens. So I like to share that story because a lot of people hear like, oh, well, she grew up in the personal development world. And it's like, oh, well, she's always been super goal oriented or efficient or, all this kind of stuff. And that's just so not the case. And we all have our stories.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And I think it's so important to see that and to hear that story because, yeah, people do make assumptions. And even though I
Yeah.
never really even knew what personal development was until like a few years ago, when I started my business, I had to learn what
Yeah.
it was. You know what I mean? And I think everybody reaches this point where they're like, holy crap, like I need to make a change or I'm not going to change. Nothing's going to change.
I love that. And I call it rock bottom syndrome. And
Yes.
everyone's rock bottom is so different, right? Like some people are like, I've heard stories of people living on the streets. They have nothing to their name and they suddenly get handed a book of like a personal development book and they turn their life around. Mine just happened to be on my professor's couch. Like, and of course I've had like mini rock bottoms ever since then. That's just kind of like the one that really made a 180. But, it just, it we all have our rock bottoms. And I think that there's this glorification in the personal development world where it's like, I was sad and whatever. And then I turned everything around overnight. And look at me now,
Oh
I'm
my
great.
gosh.
And it's like, it's not that
No.
hunky dory, shiny rainbows and butterflies. It is messy. It is dirty work and it is hard, but it is the most worth it work you can ever do in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it's like not every day is going to be uphill and happy, joyful, fulfilled,
No.
experience. Like there's some days that I'm like, I'm just going to stay in bed all
Yeah.
day.
But the thing is like we have like once you learn the tools, you're like, I know how to get out of this. But sometimes you just want to sit in it for a second. Like
Yeah,
you're a
why
human
not?
being, you
Like,
know?
let me,
Like
let me
it's like
sob. Okay.
sometimes we just want to have that moment. Like you have to feel your emotions, or else we just shove them down and create this like internal bomb inside of us, right?
Exactly.
I was so guilty of that in my previous years of coaching. But I think that there's a stigma that like if you're in the personal development world, you're perfect. If you're in the coaching world, your business is perfect, and it's like it is never that way. I had a coach for the longest time who she actually sent out an email blasted to her email list that was like, here's what you don't know about launches. You see on social media this person, I had a 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever launch. And you don't know how much time they spend on marketing. You don't know how much their team, how many team members they have. You don't know if they spent money on ads. You don't know how long they've been in the industry. Like there's so many unknowns, and yet we don't comprehend that. Our brain doesn't naturally comprehend that when we scroll through social media. We just go, oh, well, okay, I suck. I'm not enough. I will
Right.
never get to that level. And then we beat ourselves down into a little shitstorm. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm really all about like pulling back that curtain and being like, it is not perfect and no one
Me
is
too.
perfect.
I'm so passionate about like even just being my vulnerable, authentic self with my clients and being like, hey guys, this is what's going on right now for me. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at me and putting me on a pedestal, hold up. Like you don't need to do that because I'm
Yeah.
not perfect. Like I'm not all rainbows and butterflies.
I
So,
mean, I'll go ahead and pull back the curtain right now. About 30 minutes before you and I hopped on this episode, I received an email after taking a big risk in my business. I was like super big risk. I was really excited. I received an email that like the risk was not only a big fat no, it was we didn't even look at this. Like we didn't even look at the materials. I 30 minutes ago, I had a tissue. I was calling my fiance. I was weeping. I was
oh,
snotting. It was so gross in the best way. And it's like, I like to pull back these moments. It's like, I took a big risk. It didn't work out. I cried. I'm better now. But like, it's like it is not all uphill. And it's these peaks and valleys that we just really don't like to show the valleys. I could
right.
get on a whole soapbox about this, but I know that's not what the episode's
Honestly,
about.
same. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to do another episode on it.
Done. I love it.
Yeah. So, okay. So cool. So, obviously, you support coaches through perfectionism and even business owners. So, what would you say is like the number one thing that really holds them back from moving forward, like with that in that realm of perfectionism?
For business owners specifically, I'm gonna actually go with two things. I'm gonna cheat
Okay.
on this question. I apologize. Um, One is this idea that we always need to be achieving one thing after another, after another, after another. And it's like their to-do list is super, super long. They're on this road to burnout. And in fact, they're probably burned out. They're just too stubborn to say, I need to rest because that means I'm lazy, right? I don't agree with that by any means. Heavy air quotes around that. But it's this hamster wheel. It's this never-ending wheel because they're like, oh, when I go full time, then I'll be happy. When I start making 10K months, then I'll be happy. And then they get to full time and there's this new goal in place. They don't celebrate unless it's like 5 minutes. It's like this 5 minute woohoo. And then it's like, okay, but my next thing, like I gotta get to my next thing. And what this does subconsciously in our brains is it tells us no matter what you do, it is never enough. And I have a lot of people say, like, I end my days and I can't stop thinking about all the things I didn't get done. And what that does is our brains are very black and white, right? They love looking at things as yes or no. And if we spend our evenings, years, months saying, these are all the things I haven't done yet, I have to do these, the presupposition of that is, well, you haven't done anything.
Mhm.
And so many people, I start this, and I highly recommend this to listeners who resonate with this. I have people write down every single night 3 things you did do that day.
Mm.
Not nothing that you didn't happen. That is off the table in this exercise. Do not even touch it with a 10-foot pole. What did you do? And the funny thing is that no one writes 3. They write 15. And they're like, oh,
Oh, I got
I did do stuff
11.
today. So that's really one of the big ones. And I see this in a lot of high achievers, overachievers, people who tend to not like sitting still. And this is
Me.
so me. Yes,
I
right.
feel that.
I've talked to Marta a lot, who's a mutual person in our lives. She is in this camp 100%. I think it's so funny. But the flip side, though, is entrepreneurs who are, let's say, we're easy math. They're at level 0. They want to be at level 100.
Mm-hmm.
But the overwhelm of like plopping straight into level 100, forgetting about 1 through 99, is so overwhelming that if I'm really big into neuroscience, so this is what's going on in the brain. When we get that level of overwhelm, the fight, flight, freeze button is pushed in our brain, and we will most likely in that scenario freeze. We're literally saying, whoa, this is too overwhelming. My survival is being threatened. I have to grasp onto something safe. But of course, we're not that dramatic in our heads. We say, you know what, I'm not feeling motivated today. I'll do that tomorrow when I have more energy, when I'm yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And we procrastinate. We'll reach for things that are easier. Oh, I'll research on social media. We scroll, we scroll, we scroll. We see people having 10-figure launches and we're like, oh my God, I'm not enough, man. Or we'll start doing the dishes, or we'll spend hours and hours on Canva. I call these the procrastinators, and the previous one, the overachievers, because it's not even necessarily that they're procrastinating out of laziness, which I am a big believer that is not even in a perfectionist vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's you're spending your time busying yourselves with a lot of tasks that are not moving you forward.
Right.
And a lot of people are stuck in this, and they're like, I don't understand why. I feel like I am so busy and yet nothing is happening. And I'm like, well, you're spending your time doing a bunch of tasks that are moving you an inch or keeping you stuck. And
Yes.
those
Oh,
are the 2 biggest things. Allow me to.
I just recorded a podcast episode on like busy work versus effective work, and just how
Yes.
so intentional is like the only thing that's going to move you forward in business.
Are
Because
you are you a Pareto's principle
what does
person?
that mean?
The 80-20 rule, like the
Oh, yeah.
so I preach this to the thousands,
Yes.
because a lot of people, even the overachievers, are stuck in the 80%. They're
Mhm.
like, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And they wear it's like a badge of honor, right? Um,
I just
yeah.
made a post on that too.
Yes,
Overworking is not a badge of honor.
it is not. And yet we're in this
Just so
society that
now.
glorifies this hard work, pushing through, doing it all, yada, yada. And it's so toxic. I'm a big believer in healthy productivity. I think it is absolutely achievable, and it's far easier than we all think it is.
It
But
is.
it really, it looks at this, what is your 80%? And for people who don't know what the Pareto's principle 80-20 rule is, there are let's look at the 100% of tasks that you have in your business. Roughly 80% of those tasks are not moving you forward. They are not bringing you a high ROI in both monetary, energetic, all that kind of stuff. However, there's 20% that is launching you forward, but it's all the scary shit. No one wants to do
I
it.
call, I call it the fundamentals.
Ooh, yes. It's
Things
exactly.
that you do every single day that like you need to do that are like quote unquote a lot, but not a lot, right? That are
Well, the
just like
funny,
super intentional about moving you forward.
and if you look at it this way, 80% is a far bigger number than 20%. If you spend your time doing only 20% tasks, which is, I started doing this about 8 months to a year ago, I end my days at 2 maximum, literally. And it's like, that's because I love that you said same. Yes, that makes me so happy.
I accidentally went rollerblading for like 2.5 hours yesterday because I like I was bored and I was like, oh wow, it's been 2.5 hours now. Maybe I should go home and like do work.
I love that. No, but it's like when you do that, you can take these like big chunks off. I mean, like during the summer, I would be at the pool every single day reading or relaxing or listening to like my D&D podcast because I'm a huge nerd. Like I love it. And
Yes.
I just I wish more people knew this, but it really boils down to writing out what are your 80% tasks. Depending on your goals, they look very different.
Mhm.
If your goal is to get your first client, posting incessantly on social media, waiting for them to come to you is not a 20% task.
Nope.
DMing people, cold reaching out, warm reaching out, getting people on discovery calls, offering people spots in your program in exchange for testimonials, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's a 20%
Yeah.
task, but
Nurturing
it's
them, talking to them.
exactly so often anything that goes through an algorithm, it's an 80% task.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my rule, unless it is like I want to grow my social media following, then
Right.
it's a little bit different. But
I would
I
say with
think
content too, like just being so intentional about what you're posting and not just like posting to post, right?
like it has to have a goal behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so often people don't understand that. They just see a bunch of coaches online saying like, hey, you need to post, you need to post. And it's like, this is how you grow your coaching programs. And it's like, no, that's not. So I will die on this hill. Like I will happily die on this hill. But I really encourage people to look at their 80% tasks. Ask yourself, what can you automate? What can you delegate? Yes, you need to hire people.
Mhm.
And what can you delete? And follow those three rules. What can you automate, delegate, and delete?
I love that. And yeah, if we can find that and focus on the 20%, that's gonna move you forward.
I
So
literally, it's funny I'm saying this on a podcast. I, for the longest time, was like, I want to be on more podcasts. This was like a year and a half ago. I really want to do more of the speaking stuff. It sounds really fun. Like, I really enjoy the podcasting world. And I was just posting on social media, expecting podcasters to flood into my inbox, wanting me on their show, whatever. And obviously that didn't work. So after a few months of trying that, I was like, okay. And this was around when I was reading The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, which is
love
a
that book.
phenomenal book. It's
So
so,
good.
especially if you're wanting to learn the 80-20 rule, read that
Yes.
book.
Yeah. I knew it
Um,
sounded familiar when you said it. I was like, what is this name? But
that it's blasted in
I
all
knew the
things Tim
rule.
Ferriss. Like, and I
I love
love
Tim
him.
Ferriss. Yeah.
He's amazing. Have you read Tools of Titans?
No, but I have it on my list.
You
Right now, I'm
have
actually
to.
reading Creating a Story Brand by Don Miller. I feel like that's a book.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, it's on my list and I haven't read it. So yeah, I still
It,
have all Tim Ferriss's books.
it's it's phenomenal. It's a dictionary. It's giant, but it's amazing.
Beautiful.
But oh gosh, where was I going with this? I was reading Tim Ferriss's book at the time, and I was like, okay, what if I implemented this 20% stuff with the podcasting? So I started emailing and reaching out to people. In less than a year, I was on 50 podcasts
Yes.
because I ditched the 80%. And now I love it. Whenever I see a podcast pop up on my calendar, I'm like,
Like your time to shine.
it's so fun. I love it. And it's like, but I would never have gotten that if I just expected them to come to me or whatever. I had to start emailing people cold. And there were some emails that I was like shaking and sweating and like about to piss my pants sending. And they returned back and said, yes, absolutely. Like there's been a few podcasts that have over 4 million downloads. And I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, but it's like it it made a huge difference in my career. And I'm grateful for it beyond.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. And I agree. So sweet. So as a coach for people who are perfectionists, how do you support them through, overcoming this perfectionism and like holding themselves back and freezing? How do you support them through that?
Oh, such a good question. And I think it really depends on the type of perfectionism they have. I have this framework around the 3 different types of perfectionists. The overachiever is one, the procrastinator is another, and the people pleaser is a third.
Mm.
That one's pretty self-explanatory. So I think it really depends on what they're struggling with. If I have a overachieving client, we're going to work on what does it look like to get present?
Mm.
How can you release control? Because oh Lord, it's everywhere.
Me, after my first year and a half of business,
I mean,
I self-sabotaged everything in my business because of
mhm,
that exact thing. Like I was
yeah.
such a perfectionist. So, and
Well,
I was
and
so nonstop overachieving.
a lot of overachievers don't want to delegate. They don't want to hire a team because, well, I can just do it. I can do it better. And if I hire someone, that'll take time, and then they'll do it wrong and yada yada. Yada. It's just like, oh my God, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that excuse loop, it's crazy. But you have only a few hours in the day. And also, by the way, you need to be a human. outside of your business.
Very true.
Please, for the love of God, do not let your business become your entire identity. It's a huge part of us, obviously.
I always ask my clients when they come on, I'm like, all right, answer these questions. Who are you? What shaped you? And who do you want to become? And they always, like anytime, they always go with business. And I'm like, no, I want you outside of business. I want your traits.
Yes.
I want, do you want to be a dad? Do you want to be a mom? Like, what is this outside of business? Who are you outside of
Yes.
business? I always have to like bring them back to that.
And I'll be honest, I didn't really start embracing that until about last year when I looked at myself and I looked at my calendar and I was like, I haven't seen friends or done anything just for me that's not like personal growth and development related in forever. And that's when I really started I've always been a fantasy nerd. I love fantasy. But that's when I started diving into like, okay, uh, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but there's this podcast that I love. And like, I've probably listened to about 800 hours of it. Like, I started playing a lot of like video games that I love. Like, but it's like, and I started hiking in the mountains more. I moved to Colorado and it's like, I love it. And it's like, I started doing things for Nicole and figuring out who she was outside of coach. And I found that I became a better coach because of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's every time.
I totally agree.
And
Same here.
and I'd say that for the overachievers too. Like if you realize that you're someone who cannot for the life of you figure out how to get off that hamster wheel, you need to start some kind of practice that I'm starting sentences and I'm not finishing them, but I think that this is important. There's a beautiful saying that says life is mastering the art of when to speed up and when to slow down.
Mm, yeah.
And overachievers, you're good on the speed up. You figured it out. That is mastered. You're done. It's now time to figure out how to master that slow down through things like journaling, meditation, visualization, a gratitude practice. For the love of God, start a motherfucking gratitude practice today. Like,
you know what I do for gratitude?
Please tell me.
Okay, I post sticky notes all over my room. Like when I'm going to like leave, like and open my door, I look right at a sticky note. When I open my closet door, I look right at a sticky note. And on the sticky notes, it says, "What are you grateful for?" So I have to constantly think of it. And it's like
My
programmed me that like I literally have like zero negative thoughts. Like even when shit's hitting the fan, like I'm still like, it's okay. There's things in my life that I'm so grateful for, like crying.
literally exactly like my fiance and I every single night before we go to bed we do something called appreciations, not appreciations, appreciations. There's a W in there, friends, for reasons. But we do appreciations and we each say 5 different things that happened that day that we loved. And as I was on the phone with him snotting and crying and all that stuff, I was still able to say, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so grateful I have these materials now. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Even when I am literally crying and saying like I suck, but like my brain was just automatically gearing towards those gratitudes.
It's so weird how you can
It's
treat it.
incredible. And when you have, and I hear this a lot from overachievers who are like, but if I slow down, I'll become complacent or lazy, or I won't have drive anymore to go after my goals. And that is BS, my sweet friends. It's total BS. Because if you're going after goals from this place of like lack, fear of failing, fear of not being enough, constantly, always that drive for more, that hunger for more, you are draining your energy at such a rapid speed. You're telling yourself totally hateful thoughts. So like, I'm not good enough. And you're never able to be present with like a partner or a friend or a child, like,
Or on a podcast.
or on a podcast, you're thinking about your to-do list. And it's just,
Yeah.
it just, that connection piece to the rest of your life is just shattered. But if you're in this place that's already so full, like full of that gratitude, love, energy, light, your energetic output is so far greater and your creativity is higher. You're able to problem solve easier. You're able to decide how to spend your time with a lot more clarity. I think that's a really important one that people vastly overlook. So really and truly, it's the polar opposite of what you're doing right now. It's slowing the fuck down.
Yep.
And that's intentional slowdown through like presence, not just like slow down, watch Netflix for 8 hours, because that's like an overachiever's dearest nightmare. Like,
oh my gosh, I know. I'm the type of person I like literally do not watch movies at all or TV. So people are like, "Oh, have you seen like The Notebook?" I'm like, "No, like
you're
stop."
not missing anything. I hate that movie so much.
I'm like, yeah. Or like, man, even just like going on dates, like if a guy's like, "You want to go to the movies?" I'm like, "No, not really." It's like, can we like play
That.
volleyball on the beach or something? I don't know.
I love that. Like, but it's so true. So that's really what I would say to the overachiever is slow down, get present. For the
Yep.
procrastinator though, your 0 to 100 is not working. You got to figure out what is 0 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally just chunking down those bigger goals. Let's say I want to start a business. I've been sitting on this business idea for years and years and years. And then I'm like, okay, well, I need to, get clients. I need to have a website. I need to have a social media following because that means I'm an expert. By the way, I need to be an expert. Maybe I need a master's degree. Maybe I need a doctorate degree. Like, I mean,
All the
all these different things. Oh
certifications.
my God, it's exhausting. And like no wonder why your brain goes into complete overdrive and just like slams on the brakes. It's literally a defense mechanism. It's how we're programmed. So it's instead of looking at all that, it's saying, okay, what's my first step? Let's say I disagree with this, but for ease of this exercise, let's say it's build a website.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's okay, rather than build a website, what's the first step to build a website? I call these one sitting tasks. They're basically tasks, as the name suggests, you can do in one sitting, right?
Yeah.
So what's the first step to build a website? Research 3 website platforms you like and sign up for the one you like the best.
Boom.
That's one. But
Yeah.
like you need to chunk them down to almost a stupid childlike for dummies level. And I say that not to be like, you're dumb. I say that because your brain is so used to overdrive, you need to combat it the other way around. And that's how our brain is literally strengthened.
Exactly.
So one sitting tasks, chunk them down. People pleasers, however, there's this really common word that always comes up with people pleasers, and that's guilt.
Mm.
This constant guilt for taking time for yourself, for your business, for not being available immediately for a boss or a loved one or in need, like having like your phone constantly on so you don't like miss anything.
Yeah.
And this one's so much more vague. Vague's not really the right word. Ambiguous. This one's a lot more ambiguous, but that's because your work is in filling up yourself. You need to do that inner work because right now you are not trusting your own voice, your own boundaries, your own schedule, how important you are. You're not trusting any of that. So
Exactly.
it's time to get down to the nitty gritty work. And that's ugly, but it's great because eventually you're at that place where you're putting yourself on that same pedestal and it doesn't take away, it adds so much. So listening to this podcast, congratulations, you're doing it. Like you're already taking a step towards that.
Yeah.
Reading a book or an audiobook about personal growth and development, working with a coach or even a therapist, or learning how to set boundaries. These are all different ways. And the thing I love is that it's never been more easily accessible.
Yeah.
It is every flipping where you just have to reach out and take it.
Mm-hmm. And creating just that internal validation overall,
Yes.
just screaming on the rooftops, I'm doing what I want, like staying in your own
Exactly.
lane. Like that's something I had to. Do you feel like, okay, I feel like I've literally been every single one of these people in my
Yeah.
business, right? Do you feel like you go through those phases and then you're kind of like, oh, like you overcome each one of them and you're like, no,
Yes.
now I feel good, right?
I think
Yeah.
that we lean into different types of perfectionism depending on projects we're working on, depending on goals we're going towards, or even just like what mood we're in that
Yeah.
day. There are some days where I'm just like, I wake up in overdrive and I'm just like, and I have to go through my schedule. And I mean, it's already chunked into one sitting tasks, but really intentionally go through and like write notes. Okay, this is what I'm doing this time. This is what I'm doing this time. And then I just blow through them all. And I end my day and I'm like, I got everything I wanted to done today. Good job procrastinating, Nicole. Woohoo. But there's days where I'm also on that, oh my gosh, I need to go, I need to go, I need to overachieve, I need to overachieve. And it's like, okay, those are the days I know I need to meditate even longer.
Yes.
And it's hard
Or
because
slow
everything
down.
feels so urgent and it's
Right? Oh
not.
my gosh, whenever I'm feeling super urgent, I actually like force myself to go like rollerblade or something. Like I'm like, Arden, chill out.
Well,
Like,
I'd love to hear
calm
like the dialogue behind that because I think that's really important for people to know. Do you mind sharing it?
yeah. So usually there's some days that I don't know, the last few weeks I was traveling and then I had client calls, I signed more clients, so like you all of a sudden, I feel like there's weeks that you bring on a lot
Yeah.
accidentally, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, holy crap, like I didn't mean to put on that much. And that's exactly how I was feeling, not this week, but like the last week. And I just had so much. I had a big conference that was from like 7 to 10 p.m. every like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I had all my clients. And I had to like, I feel like this was definitely the people pleaser and the overachiever in me was like, I had to tell my clients, hey guys, I'm not going to be able to answer you. And in the times that I was able to sit down, I didn't immediately go to answer them, but rather I just like I was able to just breathe.
Yeah.
And like there was a time that I just went out during the event, like there was like a little break and I went outside, I just sat on the curb, let the sun hit my face. And I had to tell myself, I was like, Arden, it's okay. Your clients, they love you no matter
Yeah.
what. If you're not answering them, like right now, they still love you. They still trust you. They're doing their own thing. They're going to be okay. Right. Like I
Yes.
had to tell myself that. And that allowed me to like actually pull back, which then in fact attracts more from others because they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I love that she can do this for herself. I want to do that for myself. Right. And I
Yes.
think it's like it's a very attracting thing. And that's really cool in business as well, is to be able to pull back and take care of you and have that conversation around like you don't have to show up when you don't desire to.
Everyone go back and listen 15 seconds and listen to that sentence again because everyone needs to hear that on repeat over and over again and again.
Because I
But
think
it's
a
so
lot of coaches they show up because they're scared. They show up out of scarcity. They're like, "Oh my God, my
every
clients aren't going to resign with me, like X, Y, and Z." And it's like, no, 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 they will. They love you.
I had a conversation with one of my coaching client or my coaching friends the other day. Oh, this was not the other day. This is actually months ago. Wow, what is time? I don't know.
Time is
But her and I
relative.
were talking, and we were like, "Isn't it weird that when you don't hear from your clients for a while, you're like, I'm a bad coach. Oh my God, I need to reach out to them. I need to make sure they know they're getting their money's worth, and like all this stuff." And it's like they're probably not responding to you because they're rocking it, like, and you're kicking ass with them so much that they're like, I got it,
When I wake
like.
up in the morning and I have no messages, I'm like, I think this is a good thing.
Right? Like you have to tell yourself that rather than like, oh my God, they're da, 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 da. And also, I think it's important for coaches to remember it is up to you to provide the tools, to ask the questions, to give the insights, and to give those transformations. But it is not your fucking responsibility to create the change in them. That is them. They have to take the toolbox, they have to take the reins on their own life. That is not your job. And if you are putting them in a position where they are clutching on to someone else in order to create that growth, you are not doing your job as a coach. I love it when clients are like, you know what? I feel like I've grown so much with you in these 3, 6, 9 months, whatever. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I got it. And I'm like, amazing.
Beautiful.
I did my job. Like it is
Right?
not my job to make sure you're clutched or that you're not getting this. Like you need to release control with your clients. They are not your responsibility to create that change. That is up to them. I'm going to
Exactly.
get on the soapbox
Oh
so
my
hard.
gosh. Seriously, because it's not, you're not there to fix them or fix the
No,
business. That's up to them to do. You're there to support them through that.
they invested in you. They need to take control of that. It is not your responsibility to make sure they follow through. You can give them deadlines, you can keep them accountable. And I strongly, especially with my procrastinating clients, that is half of my job, but
Just accountability. Yep.
just accountability. But I mean, to be honest, if they don't hold themselves accountable, even with me as an accountability buddy, then that is on them,
Hmm.
not on me as a coach.
Exactly. We have
And
to stop beating ourselves up about it too.
let me tell you, it took me 4 years to get here. So like it's definitely not, this is not something I like grabbed into or went into this industry with. But and there are still days where if I don't hear from a client or in a while, I'm like, everything good? Like just checking in, you know? and
Hey.
and normally they're like, yeah, everything's fine. Like just working on my homework. And I'm like, okay, let
Oh.
me know if you need me. Like sounds
Or the
good.
other week I hopped on a call with one of my clients and she was like, "Yeah, I closed 3 clients this week." I was like, "You didn't even tell me." Like, why?
I'm so glad you brought this up because excuse me as I get on another soapbox. Um, we need to learn how to fucking celebrate ourselves.
Yeah.
I heard a great quote. This is actually in Tools of Titans, which is a fantastic book. Please read it,
Okay,
everyone.
it's next. It's on my list now.
Please read it. It's so good. He talks about how if you do not celebrate the little wins along the way, how on earth can you expect yourself to truly celebrate that big win? You won't. Your
Right.
brain is conditioned to look for the next thing and look for the next thing and look for the next thing. That does not stop depending on the goal size.
Exactly.
You have to start celebrating yourself along the way. And celebration is not, you know what? I was planning on going to the grocery store today. I'll get myself an extra special bag of Trader Joe's cookies or whatever. Oh my God, it is not a to-do list item. Like it is not. And I
Yep.
know I'm calling so many people out, including myself.
Oh yeah.
But so often because every single time a client of mine says like, hey, I did this thing, I'm like, great, how are you celebrating? They're like, oh, I was planning on going to the gas station today, so I'll listen to something fun on my way there. And I'm like,
No.
that does not count.
I make all my clients, I make them take themselves on self dates. So I go on self dates every Friday or Saturday,
Ooh,
whether it's like taking myself out to dinner or just doing something with myself. And I try to do that every single week. And that's usually my celebration for the big things that have happened during the week. But I also kind of like what I told you about my team. Like we have a wins chat. Like we're always talking about even the smallest wins, like the silliest things. Oh, guys, guess what? I'm having a conversation with this girl who like I think might be interested in our coaching. Like that's a huge win. Someone's interested.
yes.
You're having a good conversation. Like celebrate it.
I have to ask, what's today's or tomorrow's celebration? Or where are you going? What are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so I just launched my group program, Grow Without the Grind, and
Brilliant title. It's a brilliant title.
let's grow girls. So I actually haven't even fully launched it. Like I haven't shared it with my audience. I've just shared it with some of my hot leads, and
Mhm.
5 people signed up yesterday on the first day. I know. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like I did not expect that many people to just like sign up like that quickly.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was really exciting. So tonight, it's Friday. Yep, tonight I'm gonna be taking myself out on a dinner date.
Ooh, what kind of dinner are you doing?
I haven't decided yet. I'll
I'm
let you
so
know.
excited for you. Please do. I
Definitely
love
getting
I
dessert,
love it.
right? Hashtag
Absolutely.
Mosey, never skip dessert, you know?
You're my spirit animal, I swear. I love that so much. But I think that I really want people to start asking themselves, okay, how can I celebrate? And it can be like taking yourself out to dinner, going on a date. It can also be, I have some people even journal on why this is so exciting.
Yes, I love
And I think that people forget that celebration is all about getting present and grateful.
that. Hmm.
It is not about another to-do list item. So please start treating it like it is you getting present and grateful. And I've literally even had celebrations where I just meditate for 90 seconds and just feel the freaking gratitude of accomplishing something.
And
In
you're
fact,
just
this is
smiling so big. You're like,
exactly,
there
I
with the
feel like
meditation.
I am like vibrating. Like, it's like this
I have to
really
go
cool.
outside and like grab a tree, like make me grounded, help.
Oh, you're so San Diego and I love it so much.
I am. There's a reason I moved here. So
I don't even blame you. My little San Diego heart just loves it so much. But I strongly encourage everyone, whether you're in any of those perfectionism camps, please start celebrating yourself. Not only is it good for just like, your well-being, your mental health, but it completely rewires your brain in ways that are astronomically cool. I won't get into all the brain science behind it, but there's a lot of neural pathways that are completely transformed when you have that high of elevation around something with something you did.
yes.
We
Yeah.
do it a lot for others. We don't do it often for ourselves. So there is a really cool transformation that happens up there. Take advantage of it.
Do
Do
it.
it.
Yep, do it.
Thanks.
Just do it.
Nike.
Yeah, right. Speaking on that, what would you say is one action step someone can take with them after listening to this podcast?
80/20.
80/20.
Look at your schedule. What are you spending time on that's 80%? What are you spending time on that's 20%?
Mm.
Start doing the slow down work. It's just as important as the strategy and the grow work. In fact, I'd argue that it is the grow work. A lot of people just don't think it is.
I do.
And chunk things down. If anything is overwhelming, ask yourself, great, how can this be smaller? I literally have people who are like, I have not emailed this person back in 2 weeks because I just don't know what to say and I'm afraid and yada, yada, yada. And so I asked myself, okay, great. How would you chunk this down into one sitting tasks? And they're like, oh, but it's writing an email. That's toddler stuff. And I'm like, well, sure, you can keep doing what you're doing. It's clearly working. Like, like just I'm such a dick sometimes. But, or you can try it this way.
Yeah.
They write the email in 5 minutes and send it off.
So
Start chunking things down if you notice yourself getting into overwhelm. It is always it never ceases to amaze me that sometimes the things that we put off for so long that weigh on our shoulders and just like become so heavy and stressful take 20 minutes or less. Right. They're so short.
Yep. Just put them in your Google Calendar. Get them done.
I love that you're a Google Calendar. I'm so type A. Like, literally.
I know. I was like, we're going to do this podcast. I sent you the link. I was like, all right, let's go. My friends do it too.
If you are a Google Calendar person, start your day. Or I have every single Monday, I have 15 minutes planned in every single Monday, plan out one sitting tasks. And it is going through all my chunks of time because I have like project time, I have podcast time, I have social media planning time. And it's going through those times and chunking them into one sitting task depending on what my goal is for that week. Some people think I'm crazy. I have grown my business like 5-10x from doing this exercise alone.
Yep. Agreed. So same. And like different colors, color coordinating.
I love a color coding. I have a dark blue and a light blue because I have a pattern. And like I have like a dark blue
different colors. I think that might not be a good thing, but
I think it depends on who you are. I think some people like, because I know for a while, like when you're studying and like doing note cards and stuff, if the note cards are in different colors, it helps your brain remember them easier. But for me, I love just having two colors because it's like my dark blue is client calls or podcast interviews, things that are set in stone. They cannot be moved around. The rest is Tetris. You can play around with it however you want. And I love that because I've done this for so long that it feels very easy for me to just move things around. Excuse me. But I do think that when people are first starting, avoid that because that can also be a form of procrastination unless, you've kind of mastered the skill. So, but I love it because it just makes life so easy. But I have if you're someone who's really interested in this Pareto's principle stuff or this schedule work, how to like craft a schedule that works for you to grow your business faster and honestly grow yourself. I literally, the funny thing is like that course is geared geared towards like work productivity and making sure it's healthy and like learning how to rest and reframing rest in your mindset. But it's mostly so that you can have time to go be a human being. And I have that course. It's called Get Productive. Go to my website. It's on there. It's my favorite thing I've ever created. And if this is something that you need, it's on there. It's ready for you. So
yes, thank you. And how can people contact you? What's your website? Like, how can we find you?
I am on Instagram at Life Coach Baker. I am on a website at lifecoachbaker.com. If you want to do a private discovery call, I do 3 free 30-minute discovery calls. It's on there. If you want to check out Get Productive, also on there. All the deets. She's a bopping website. I love her. I also have a podcast. It's called the Life Coach Baker podcast. If you're noticing a pattern, you're right. Go to Life Coach Baker anywhere and I'm there. So like
it's a good pattern though.
Thank you. Gotta get that branding. But it's fine. I do always like to say that I am Life Coach Baker 2.0 because my dad is the OG Life Coach Baker, but 2.0 is just too much for the website. So
well, thank you so much, Nicole, for coming here and sharing your amazing intelligence around perfectionism and just giving so much really solid advice to our listeners because I know they're going to be like, wow, I needed all of this. So appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on. And I hope you have a really great weekend and we'll talk soon.
I hope you have a beautiful dinner date. That just sounds delightful.
Thank you. I'll be watching the sunset,
Get out.